Baba. Right.
So, Dr. Umar.
Yes, sir.
How you doing today, sir?
Peace and Pan-Africanism. Black queens forever.
All right, we're getting ready to get started. Get started early. We had a little talk earlier today, and we were talking about the fact of African Americans in our country today. Are we thriving or just surviving? And I proposed that question to you earlier today, and I want to propose it to you again in front of this audience so you can talk to them. In your opinion, do you believe that African Americans or black folks in general, are we thriving or surviving right now? We barely getting it done, or what's your thoughts?
I would say that we are drowning. We are neither thriving or surviving. We are drowning. When I look at the suicide rate for black girls, they have the fastest growing suicide rate in America post-COVID. Number one killer of black men are each other. Second leading cause of death of black men between 20 and 40, suicide. Third leading cause of black men between that same age group are preventable injuries or reckless behavior. I look at the fact that 75% of our children are being raised exclusively by the mother. I look at the fact that we don't have a single black community in these United States that operates independently as a black Wall Street, meaning there's no place I've been to in America, nor that I know of, where we own our own bank, our own school, our own hospital, and our own supermarket. You need a bank to invest in the people, a hospital to save the people, a supermarket to feed the people, and a school to teach the people. And nowhere in this country do you find those four things in the same area. And I look at Cleveland, I find it interesting that this is one of the few black cities where we are in the numerical majority. 47% of the 350,000 residents of the city of Cleveland are black. 37% are white. And even though we predominate numerically, we are still disenfranchised, economically exploited, and politically oppressed. Absolutely unacceptable.
And why do you think is that?
Well, number one, you cannot control black people, you cannot exploit black people, and you cannot disadvantage black people without the participation of the black bourgeoisie. So in Cleveland, I'm sure there are members of the coonocracy who operate in the favor of the white power structure and against the interests of black people. That is 5 families of the coonocracy or the black bourgeoisie. Number one, you have your media coons. The media coons are black people who own radio, newspaper, magazine, TV, podcasts, who do not discuss the critical issues in our community. They don't talk about the food deserts we live in. They don't talk about the fact that although 65% of Cleveland's public school students are black, 67% of Cleveland's teachers are white. Why in a predominantly black school district are most of your teachers not black? They won't talk about that. But they will talk about who won the NBA Finals. They will talk about who hit the lottery. They will talk about who got shot at the mini market last night. But they will not talk about the critical systemic issues that affect black people in Cleveland that were introduced from the power structure. They will blame the victim and never blame the perpetrator. So you have your media Negroes. Then you have your higher education bourgeoisie. These are black people who work for the school system, the university system, the community college system. And, when they're asked why black people are in the condition that we are in, they will blame single mothers, poverty, rap music, sagging pants, and Instagram. Although those are contributing factors, they are not causes. The reason black people exist in poverty in Cleveland and everywhere else is because the Federal Housing Authority created a situation where they helped poor white people escape to the suburbs 40, 50 years ago on low interest loans and handouts, and they trapped black people in the ghetto and then stripped the inner city of the resources that they were given to poor people with the same income out in the suburbs. So everything that happens to us is introduced from the outside. We are at fault because we don't do anything about it. We are at fault because we don't organize and resist. We are at fault because we don't push back. The third family of the black bourgeoisie is your elected officials. Not all, but most of them. Negroes who are in positions of influence and power, but are paid to do nothing to assist black people. That's number 3, I think it was. So you got your media Negroes, your higher ed Negroes, your elected black bourgeoisie. Then you have your entrepreneurial bourgeoisie. These are black people who have made a decent living for themselves, come from the ghetto, and after they escape to the suburbs with a nice house and a nice car and probably a snow bunny, they turn their backs on the back of other blacks. And the last of the 5 families, Baba, is the religious bourgeoisie. And I would argue that the religious bourgeoisie is the most dangerous because they have the most control over the way black people think. Basically, what they do is they evangelize oppression, and they evangelize dysfunction, and they evangelize white supremacy that makes black people think we're in the condition we in because Jesus put us in that condition, or Muhammad or God put us in that condition. In other words, they never point the finger at systemic inequity, systemic injustice, or systemic racism. They come up with fancy religious excuses that rock black people to sleep instead of waking them up to organize against oppression. If you really are trying to lead your people away from the devil, why are you so comfortable with your people living in hell?
So if that's the case and the suppression is distraction, then what's our counter move?
The counter move is mass organization. Everything begins with organization. As the right, excellent, honorable Marcus Messiah Garvey said, the greatest black leader of the 20th century and the greatest humanizer of all time, and the only major leader we had after Frederick Douglass to give us a movement that wasn't tied to a religion. Marcus Garvey said the greatest weapon used against the Negro is disorganization. El Hajj Malik El Shabazz Malcolm X said, it's not that white folks are more intelligent or Asian or Arabs or East Indians are more intelligent. They simply out-organize us. Kwame Ture, Stokely Carmichael said, if you organize a little, you get a little done. If you organize some, you get some done. But if you don't organize at all, you don't get anything done. Black people are completely disorganized. And until we hate racism more than we hate each other, nothing will change.
So I want you to tell everybody about racism.
Yes, sir.
Because I think people get confused sometimes about when you talk and when you speak, they take your passion
for anger.
For anger. And
it's not anger, it's love for my people.
And they take it as racism. So I want you to explain that a little bit.
Sure. First of all, I cannot be a racist because racism is a group system. There's no such thing as individual racists separate from the system of racism. That's like being on the Cleveland Browns, and I'm a Brown, but I can't exist separate from the Cleveland Browns organization. So there's no such thing as an individual racist. You're only racist by direct relationship to a racist system. So there's no such thing as individual racist. I can be prejudiced. I can dislike white people because they're white, which I don't. I can hate white people because they're white, which I don't. I can be prejudiced. Racism is prejudice plus power. You got to have the power to implement your prejudice to disadvantage people's lives. I don't control nobody's mortgage. I don't control the education of nobody's children. I don't control the police department in nobody's neighborhood. I don't control the criminal justice system in nobody's county. So there's no way that I can be racist. Now, racism, so that African people understand the difference between racism and bigotry. Because I don't believe every Caucasian is a bigot. I do know every Caucasian is a racist. What is the difference? A bigot is someone who has an emotional connection to the degradation of African people. In other words, I hate you because I think black people are inferior. I hate you because I think black people are monkeys. I hate you because I don't think black people can do anything right. That's bigotry. I have a hatred for you. Most white people may not have a hatred for black people, but they're all racist. Racism is about three things, and racism is only about three things: complete control and domination of resources, opportunities, and privileges. Let me say it one more time. Racism has nothing to do with how white people feel about you personally. That's bigotry. Racism is, I hate you. Bigotry is, I hate you. Racism is, I want white people in Ohio to be in absolute control, domination, and monopolization of all the resources, all the opportunities, and all the privileges. And because black people don't understand racism, that's why it's such a potent weapon against us. Because we will think if a white woman lays down with me and give me a baby, she's not racist. If I sleep with them, if I smoke weed with them, if I live with them, if I hang out with them, if I pledge a fraternity or sorority with them, that means they're not racist. That has nothing to do with racism. A white woman can have your baby and still discriminate against your black ass. Racism ain't got nothing to do with sex, religion, or none of that. It's about military and political control. And until black people understand racism, we'll never get out of it.
Let's talk about the state of the black men and boys. The education department is now dismantling federal education as it goes on. Our young black boys, suspensions are being surged. We're surging in suspension around the country as it relates to African-American boys in school. And we're seeing calculated resets on black male potential. And I asked you earlier, and you said it was a form of Jim Crow 5.0.
5.0, Jim Crow 5.0.
And so I want you to break that down and why you feel that.
First of all, let's go back to 1954. United States Supreme Court outlawed the use of race in public education. Black people were learning just fine prior to 1954. They did not desegregate public schools so black children could get a better education. They desegregated black schools because they were concerned about the growth of black excellence. Keep in mind, we invented the gas mask before we went to school with white children. We invented the stoplight before we went to school with white children. We invented the refrigerated truck before we went to school with white children. They did not desegregate to help us. They desegregated to hinder us. They saw Black Wall Street in Tulsa. They saw Black Wall Street in Rosewood. They saw Black Wall Street in Wilmington, North Carolina. They saw Black Wall Street in Charleston. They saw independent black communities even here in Ohio. And they decided that if we want to stop the progress of black people, we must take over control of their children's education. And when they desegregated the schools, they did not bring black teachers with black students. The biggest layoff in public education is between 1954 and 1974 of black teachers. They brought our children into the schools. They fired the teachers. And so when our black children were bused into white schools, having to deal with not only bigoted white students, but bigoted white teachers, there was no black teachers in there to protect them. And because many school districts said, we're not going to integrate. We don't care what you say. So the federal government came up with a plan called special education. And in 1974, they invented special ed to give white school districts the opportunity to make money off of the miseducation of black children. And basically the agreement was, take these black children into your white schools. We will let you resegregate, but you can't do it based on color. We're going to give you 13 disabilities. And the main disability has been the so-called learning disability. And if you get your white racist school psychologists who still work in Cleveland schools today to evaluate these black children and call them reading disabled, math disabled, comprehension disabled, intellectually disabled, emotionally disabled, you can separate them from the white children in a class of their own. So special education was created to undo the effects of desegregation. Now let me say this. Black boys don't need a special school. Black boys don't need a special curriculum. Black boys don't need a special education. The problem is they have flipped this situation on its head, and they have the black community looking at our boys as if they are the problem. Nothing's wrong with black boys. The problem is the white teachers, who are 67% of Cleveland's teachers, don't care about the black boys they teach. So you should be intervening with the white teacher. But because of Snow Bunny privilege, she cannot be blamed. The white woman cannot be blamed for the failure of black boys. So what do? We let them blame our boys for why they can't read. We let them blame our boys for why they can't count. We let them blame our boys for why they can't sit still. And nobody ever points a finger at the racist white teacher. Public education is the only industry in America where the customer is blamed for not getting the product they paid for. When you go to the supermarket and your food is spoiled, you go back to the supermarket. When you buy an automobile and your car doesn't work, you go back to the auto shop. But when black kids come home and can't read, we don't look at the teachers, we blame them.
So, are y'all ready for this? He's just getting started, all right?
Let me say this real quick.
I told y'all, he's just getting started.
In order to teach a child, you have to care about them. Are y'all listening to me? In order to teach a child, you have to care about them. No child is going to take a risk at being embarrassed and humiliated in front of their class unless they know that teacher unconditionally cares about me. If I don't feel love in my classroom, if I know she's only there to pay her mortgage so her and her white police officer husband can pay their bills, then why would I try? The biggest thing missing from Cleveland schools, Dayton schools, Cincinnati, Youngstown, Ohio, the biggest thing missing is teachers who care. You got to love a child in order to teach them. Our babies are being victimized by psychological terrorism every day they walk into these schools. And then when the boys can't sit still long enough to learn about Christopher Columbus, when they can't sit still long enough to learn about Helen Keller, when they can't sit still long enough to learn about Anne Frank and Thomas Jefferson, they want to send them to the psychiatrist and get an ADHD, ODD, CD, IDD, BULLSHIT. Listen to me. Don't you ever let a teacher tell you your child needs medication to get an education. Our children don't need medication to get an education. Boys are active by nature. Black ones, white ones, brown ones, red ones, yellow ones. The problem is the schools are run by women, and those women expect boys to behave like girls. And when he can sit still like the girls, he's considered to be disabled. If we had more black male teachers, we wouldn't have this problem. When boys go through puberty, and their body starts to prepare for their ability to produce children, they start producing testosterone in high levels. Testosterone makes you energetic. Testosterone makes you want to jump, run, climb, tackle somebody. When girls go through puberty, their body starts to generate high levels of estrogen. When girls are going through puberty, they want to lay down, they want to sleep, they want to take it easy. Boys are the exact opposite, and the problem is that the American public school system is not designed to cater to the needs of black boys. So they send you to the doctor, and the doctor going to give you a Ritalin prescription, an Adderall prescription, a Metadate prescription, a Cycler prescription. Put your son on crack. Here's the problem. You got black men all over Ohio in jail for selling crack. So if crack is not a good thing, why is it okay to put crack in a baby bottle, give it to my son, but it's not okay for his father to sell it? If his father goes to jail for 5 years from being caught with crack, I'm sure Crack cannot be advantageous to the child. And what are the side effects? Kill brain cells. What are the side effects? Mess with kidney, liver, and heart function. What are the side effects? Sleeping disorders, eating disorders, psychosis, depression, homicidal thought, and suicidal thought. I had a professor tell me in college that 15% or more of the crime in the black community can be directly attributed to the long-term side effects of psychiatric medication. Our children do not need drugs, they need love.
We're going to talk about your book, because now we're here today and we want everybody to know he has a book that he has published, and we have them over there at the table there, that if you're interested in it, we're going to raffle off a couple of them today as a gift for folks who came to the program today. But I want to talk to you, if you don't mind, telling everybody about your book that you wrote and some of the tools that they can use from that book to kind of help them deal with students or their kids going through this process.
Well, my first book, Psychoacademic Holocaust, the special ed and ADHD wars against black boys. I wrote that book because as I traveled the country, being a certified school psychologist, I noticed that most black parents knew nothing about educational law, and they knew nothing about behavioral procedure, and they knew nothing about special education policy. So when I wrote Psychoacademic Holocaust, I thought that I hit the nail on the head. But parents came back, and although the book benefited them, they still had a lot of unanswered questions. So I said, I got to get more technical this time. I got to really go down to the grassroots and make sure they understand this thing. And so Black Parent Advocate grew out of a need to make sure black parents, particularly mothers, since they're raising so many of our children alone, that they would have a how-to manual on how to deal with any problem the school throws at you. So half of that book are letters that you can reproduce, put your name on it, take mine off, and give to the school. So for example, if you think your child is mentally gifted and they're refusing to evaluate your child for mental giftedness, and they do that a lot in black school districts because a lot of white people don't think black kids can be mentally gifted. So I have a letter in there that you reproduce and you send it into the school. If Ohio State Department of Education still has a gifted policy, you can still request a gifted evaluation. A lot of parents don't know that. Let's say you want your child evaluated for speech in preschool, because special education begins at age 3 and special education ends at age 21, or high school graduation, whichever happens first. So if you got a 3-year-old in preschool and they have a speech problem and you want to get them some speech services, you can contact the special ed department of Cleveland Metropolitan Public Schools and say, I have a 3-year-old who I think can benefit from speech services. I have the letter in there. Now let's look at the other side. Let's say your child been in special ed 3 years, still can't read. Special ed 3 years, still can't count. Special ed 3 years, still can't comprehend, which means the IEP team has failed your child. That means if we can prove that they have failed your child, not you, because you don't send them to school, not you, because you don't go to IEP meetings, not you, because you don't check homework, but because of the failure of the school. If we can prove the school failed your disabled child, according to federal law, you can make Cleveland Metropolitan Public Schools pay for your child to go to a private school at public expense. I help parents do it all over America. But the biggest problem with helping black parents get private schools for the disabled children is your paperwork is never organized. You gotta keep your paperwork together, because the first thing I need to see are your child's psychological evaluations. A child with a disability must be reevaluated every 3 years in America. So if your child got put in special ed in the 2nd, there's a 5th grade eval, there's an 8th grade eval, there's an 11th grade eval. If your child got put in special ed in kindergarten, there's a 3rd grade eval, a 6th grade eval, a 9th grade eval, and a 12th grade eval. If you don't have the paperwork, how in the hell am I going to trace this whole situation back to the beginning? And I'll stop with this. and I talk about this in my book. No black child should be getting evaluated for anything except speech under the age of 7. Did y'all hear what I said? Not reading, not math, not comprehension, not intellectual, not emotional, not ADHD, conduct disorder, and why not? Why is Dr. Umar saying you should never let a black child get evaluated under the age of 7? Because the earlier the child is, the more likely we can get the diagnosis wrong, Baba. You feel me? Because when a child is young, they're still growing and learning. There's no psychologist in America that can tell you for certain that your 3-year-old is autistic. Now, autism is real, but autism is often misdiagnosed. Why? Because we get them evaluated too soon. And the reason we get them evaluated too soon, Baba, the reason the preschools push it is they want the special ed money. Did y'all hear me? They want the special ed money. They don't care about your child. They want the money. And since special ed begins at 3, if you silly enough to let them evaluate a 3-year-old, okay, they'll put them in special ed so they can get that money. A special ed child is worth on average twice as much as a regular child. So let me give you an example. Let's say Cleveland Public School spends $10,000 a year on a child, Bob, a regular child. Right. The minute I say he's autistic, the minute I say he's emotionally disturbed, the minute I say he has a reading problem, he ain't worth 10. He worth 20. And they get the extra 10 every year. So if you put your 2nd grader in special ed and they get an extra $10,000 a year, by the time he graduates from 12th grade, that's $100,000 extra for one. So how much money do they get in Cleveland schools for 100? How much is the special ed budget in Cleveland schools for 1,000? They are literally pimping our children in the name of miseducation. And the saddest thing is most of our children who have been determined to be learning disabled are not learning disabled. You know what their real problem is? Lazy disabled. They don't want to learn how to read. They don't feel like learning how to count. They don't feel like learning how to comprehend. And guess what, parents? A lot of you are guilty too, because you are raising lazy ass black children. They do what they want when they feel like it. What is the #1 job of a black parent in America after you teach your child to love themselves? It is to teach your child discipline. And what is Dr. Umar's definition of discipline? It is the ability to do what you don't want to do when it has to be done, whether you like it or not. And if you graduate a 12th grader who don't have self-control and self-discipline, you have just created a victim for the white power structure.
Dr. Umar, we're going to move on to the sisters now.
Let's talk about the sisters.
We're going to talk about the sisters.
Brown sugar.
The state of black.
Butter almond.
That's right.
Fudge chocolate.
That's right.
Cinnamon and brown sugar.
That's right, sir. We're going to get into that. That's what you like, and that's your lane right there. Black women are under attack politically and economically. How do we protect these sisters without piling more survival labor on their backs?
First of all, and this is to my brothers, and we got a lot of great black men in Cleveland, great. But collectively, we as black men have failed our community because we have gotten very comfortable with women being in charge. Let's go back in history just a little bit so we understand how we got here. After the FBI executed Dr. King, they said we have to stop the creation of another black liberation movement. After they killed King, they took out our Prentice Bunchy Carter and John Huggins, the leader of the Los Angeles Panthers. They took out Frantz Fanon, our revolutionary black psychiatrist. They took out Fred Hampton in Chicago, and they took out George Jackson, Soledad brother. That was the final 5. After they got rid of all the true revolutionaries and created the coonocracy, they then said, we have to make sure black people cannot finance any more revolutions. So what's the first thing America did in 1970, 2 years after they killed King? They came into Cleveland, they came into Cincinnati, They came into Youngstown and they start shutting down the factory jobs that our grandparents used to work at. They did this on purpose to make sure we could not finance any more black freedom struggles. Then they went into the high schools of Cleveland. They went into the high schools of Columbus. They went into the high schools of Dayton. And guess what they did? They removed the industrial building training programs. Once upon a time, you could become an electrician in high school. Once upon a time, you could become a plumber in high school. Once upon a time, you could become a roofer or a welder in high school. The white man did away with all of that. To do what? Create poverty in black America on a scale like we have never seen. And then they start telling black people that if you want to make it in America, go to college. And so for 50 years, we've been sending every black person to college. And what have we got for it? A small group of elitist blacks who think they better than everybody else. And the rest of us got stuck with hundreds of thousands of dollars of student loan debt. And most of you don't even work in a profession that has anything to do with the area you got your degree in. They played us. That was a scam between the banks, the government, and the universities. Meanwhile, when I drive through Cleveland, what do I see? White people building the new construction projects. Asians, Latinos building the new construction projects. And if I go ask your mayor why we ain't got more black folks, he's going to say because y'all don't have the paperwork and the certifications. But there's a reason for that. Y'all gutted them programs out of our high schools. And guess what? They don't want to put them back. You know why? Because as long as they're not training black men and black women with the skills that pay the bills. What did I call them? The skills that pay the bills. As long as they're not training our children with the skills that pay the bills, white people will forever dominate the economic landscape of Cincinnati. This is all a scam, a setup, and a hoax. And your black bourgeoisie is not even telling you what they're doing, nor are they fighting back. Cleveland. No, I was in Cincinnati last month. Cleveland has 17 city council persons. 8 of them black, 8 of them white, 1 of them Latino. So in a city that's half black, largest population, half the city council black, why in the hell we ain't got nothing to show for it? Yeah. Because people are being paid to leave you in the dust.
What they got to do with our black queens?
Everything. Now let's get back to the black queens. 3 things. So first of all, they deindustrialized us. 1980, the CIA came in and dropped crack cocaine off. So all these unemployed black men had a decision to make. You can sell the crack and pay the bills, or you can smoke the crack and deal with the fact you can't pay the bills. Either way, you're going to jail. The 70s and the 80s was the agenda to make the black man economically irrelevant to the black woman. Did you hear what I just said? I'm going to say it again. The 1970s and the 1980s were the decades of making the black man economically irrelevant to the black woman. The white man said, if we can eliminate the black woman's dependency and trust on the black man, we can split them against each other. And what are we doing all over the internet today? Fighting back and forth. Black women canceling black men canceling black women, and we all look like fools because we're the only people in America who get on the damn internet and tear each other down for the entertainment of non-black people. So, then 1994, your first black president, Bill Clinton, your first black president, Bill Clinton, gave you the 1994 crime bill, which locked up more black people than any president in American history since slavery. He gave us 3 strikes and you out. He gave us mandatory sentencing for drugs. And he gave us 3 strikes and you out, life sentences for dope, and mandatory minimums. Bill Clinton and the Democratic Party destroyed the backbone of the black family. It was that 1994 crime bill that destroyed us. It gave rise to a teenage pregnancy we had never seen before. Yeah, we had teenage pregnancy, But we ain't had nothing like we caught in the 80s and 90s with crack and the Bill Clinton crime bill. And then in the year 2000, George Bush gave the black church an economic stimulus package called the Faith-Based Initiative, where he started paying black churches federal money so they would no longer fight for black people. And that's why I can drive all through Cleveland, and I probably can't find a single black church that's at the forefront. I said at the forefront, not going to meetings. I said at the damn forefront of fighting for better schools, against miseducation, mass incarceration, police genocide, and economic apartheid. Because those are the 5 problems of black America: miseducation, mass incarceration, homelessness and gentrification, police genocide, and economic apartheid. Anybody running for office, you're not getting my vote unless you have a plan and a program for at least one of them. It don't have to be all 5, because I know you can't do everything, but you can do something. And if you tell me you running for city council and you want me to vote for you September 9th, 2025, you want me to vote for you November 4th, 2025, and you can't do nothing about the schools, you can't do nothing about the police, you can't do nothing about the judicial crime code, you can't do nothing about economic apartheid or gentrification, what the hell am I voting for you for? We have to fall out of love with the Democratic Party and the Republican Party.
Thank you.
I'm not a slave, so I don't belong to the Democratic plantation or the Republican plantation. I don't need a black president. I don't need a black mayor. I don't need a black council person. I don't need a black state legislature. I want black power. Do not confuse black power with black puppets. They are 2 completely different things. So what I'm saying, Baba, is this: the systemic oppression of the black male, the mass underemployment of the black male, the mass incarceration of the black male has rendered us economically impotent for our women. And I need black women to understand that most black men are not in the condition he's in because he's lazy and trifling. He's in the condition he's in because the power structure, white society, local government, state government, federal government, created a system to destroy the black man's ability to be a man in his house. And we should be fighting side by side, black man and black woman, for black liberation and black freedom, black power.
What would a fully protected, empowered, and supported black womanhood look like to you?
A woman with a husband, first of all. Black men got to start marrying our queens. We cannot be serial monogamous forever, brothers. We got to settle down, because if black boys don't see black men married to black women, and I'm guilty, I got to get married too, but I'm going to have 2 queens. That's another conversation. Butter almond and butter pecan. But listen, if our boys don't see us loving our women, they're not going to want to love one either. And this is why you Negroes with the white wives, you got to stop it. Stop it. I ain't got nothing against the white woman. I'll hold the door open for her. I'll help her if she's in trouble, as long as ain't no sister hurt first. Okay? Nothing against her, but this is about us. When you marry into another community, you are investing in another people. Show me who you marry, I show you who you love. You got a white wife, then you committed to white power, white racism, and white supremacy. You cannot talk black and sleep white. And this goes for my beautiful African sisters as well. You must be out your damn mind, laying down with your slave master's great-grandson, giving away for free what they stole for 400 years. Don't you ever, black woman, expose your royal waters to the devil's knife of your oppressor. You don't let your oppressor spray his ancestors in your belly. Listen, when you make a baby, that's 2 family trees coming together. You got Harriet Tubman in your family tree. You got Sojourner Truth in your family tree. You got Ida B. Wells in your family tree. Do you really think they want to have a cookout with George Washington and Thomas Jefferson? What the hell you mixing ancestors for? Our ancestors don't want nothing to do with them damn ancestors. We date out the race. Not because we can't find a good black person, Black woman, if you don't like the brothers in Cleveland, go get one from Dayton. If you don't like the brothers in Cleveland, go get one from Youngstown. If you can't find no black men in America, they down in Brazil. We got more black people in Brazil than any place outside of Africa. They in Costa Rica, they in Panama, they in Jamaica, Guadeloupe, Turks and Caicos. They in Africa, Nigeria, Ghana, they in Canada. Same thing for black men. Don't give me the excuse you can't find a good black women. Black women are the largest population on the planet Earth. There's more black women than any other population. So if you can't find her here, find her somewhere else. But the truth of the matter is, black men date, mate, cohabitate, and procreate with snow bunnies because you wish you were Caucasian yourself.
So let's stay on that topic for a minute. We had a couple of incidents that came off across. One we had talked earlier about was that I felt that I looked at some of your interviews. You gave my man Shannon Sharp a pass. I know that you had looked
Club Shay Shay. Shout out to Club Shay
Shay. He's been around for a while.
He's been Snow Bunny.
And he's been a guy that we all like, we respect.
I like Shannon Sharp.
And I saw that you kind of gave him sort of a break on what he was doing and the situation is in. Why don't you
I ain't give him a break though, Elder.
All right.
What I said, see, here's my thing. If there's a bunny hopper in this audience, right? And I'm sure there is. I don't disagree with what he's doing. Excuse me. I disagree with what he's doing. It's not personal. It's the business of African re-empowerment. Do y'all understand? Now, that same brother dating a white girl, although I disagree with him dating a white girl, if she tries to accuse him of the unthinkable, and I believe that he's not getting a fair opportunity to prove his innocence, I'ma stand with him. Some people say, why did you decide to support Shannon Sharp when he was dating a white girl? Because what they do to any black man, they do to every black man. Today is Shannon Sharp, tomorrow it'll be you, the next day it'll be me, but not with a bunny, of course, right? So we gotta recognize, y'all, when they take us down, we don't have the liberty of saying, well, she shouldn't have done it or he shouldn't have done it. Judicial decisions are all about establishing precedent. And if we let them establish precedent or something that is unfair, they will carry that out for future generations. Let's take Sean Combs. If Puffy is guilty of the 3 federal charges, RICO, interstate sex trafficking, or interstate solicitation of sex, then he should be held accountable. But what I'm not going to support is y'all keep bringing up the Cassie situation and y'all keep talking about baby oil. He's not on trial for baby oil, right? But if black America, because they don't like what Puffy did, if you tell the white man, go ahead and lock him up and throw away the key when he has not proven beyond a reasonable doubt that Puffy is guilty of interstate sex trafficking or prostitution, then guess what? The next time a black man comes who is innocent, they'll be able to convict them too, because black America likes tearing each other down so much that we'll let them sentence somebody to court who wasn't even guilty. I'm not going to co-sign that. So I'm going to stand with Shannon Sharp. I'm going to stand with Puffy until it is proven that they are guilty. But black men have a right to be tried in a jury of their peers, just like everybody else. I'm not standing for wrongdoing. I'm standing for justice.
So in Shannon Sharp case, is he being done wrong or is he a victim of his own demise?
Both. But he shouldn't have his life destroyed. He had no business dating a 19-year-old OnlyFans snow bunny with no body. He had no right to do that. He had no right to do that. No Cinnabons or nothing. He had no right to do that. But guess what? Her accusing him of sexual assault is something completely different. Now, one thing is for certain, 2 things is for sure. There's not a white woman on the planet Earth, there's not a Caucasian female on the planet Earth who gets assaulted by a famous black man and do not call the police. This woman alleges Shannon Sharp abused her once, then came back to a house with birthday gifts and Christmas gifts. She let him in a second time. He abused her again, and you never called the police. You just want some money. Who in the hell believed that? No white woman is letting a black man get away with. You can forget it. Most black men who were lynched in American history, going back to slavery, were lynched because white women even hinted at us looking at them the wrong way. Look at what they did to Emmett Till for a whistle. Black men been castrated, beheaded, burned at the stake for even looking at a white woman the wrong way. And you want me to think a white woman let Shannon Sharp sex her twice for Christmas gifts and birthday gifts? And then originally she wanted to have his big black baby, right?
Right.
What kind of Negro shit? But anyway, see, she wanted the baby because that's what the white girls do with the athletes. And by the way, 70% of upper echelon black athletes date out their race. 70%. So stop talking about most black men don't date white women. The rich ones do. Yes, the hell they do. Okay? Now, she wanted Shannon Sharp's baby because for the snow bunny, if I can get your baby, I got your pockets anyway. I don't need the ring. So she wanted that baby. But Shannon Sharp was smart enough not to give her the baby. The problem Shannon Sharp had, same thing Puffy did. Puffy offered Cassie a settlement too soon, and Shannon Sharp offered Gabriella Asu Ninjas a settlement too soon. If he would have waited, he might have made off better, because remember, she only wanted 20,000, remember? She wanted 20,000 per flat cheek. After she got with a lawyer, the 20,000 per flat cheek turned into 20 million per flat cheek. And then black men got to stop calling our sisters gold diggers. Because I don't know no black woman on OnlyFans who are about to get 40, 50 million dollars off of a black celebrity. We never get that kind of money. In fact, black women don't even sue for. You know why? Because black women are presumed guilty before proven innocent. So most sisters' cases will never make it to court anyway. This is a snow bunny hustle. And since black men want to keep on dating white girls, guess what? I'm going to make some money off this too. I'm going to start a snow bunny leasing agency. You can come lease your bunny until she tired of your black ass. Black queens forever.
I told him that his snow bunny leasing thing is called pimping. I told him, you can't do that. That's called
Is
pimping.
the white woman not pimping black celebrities? Tiger Woods' wife was a caregiver. She was a caregiver. Guess what her divorce settlement was with Tiger Woods? $100 million. Look at all that money our brother Kobe, rest in peace, left Vanessa. Vanessa ain't dropped a penny off in Philadelphia yet. They don't care about us. They there for the bucks. But I'm not blaming the white women. If we that damn dumb, after all we done been through, to give up your entire reputation and life savings for the pale vagina, so be it.
Let's talk a little bit about your school.
FDMG, let's
Let's
go.
talk about the school, man. Your school.
Frederick Douglass Marcus Garvey RBG International Leadership Academy for Black Excellence.
You know, you've been getting a lot of slack about your school. People saying, what's going on with the school?
I love the good and the bad. Let them hate.
Bad. So
hate is the oxygen I use to elevate. Hate me if you want.
Tell them, when we talked about the school, first give them an update of where you are with the school. Then
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So, first of all, 2014, I took my first donation for FDMG in St. Louis, Missouri. 2019, we purchased a 4-building former black charter school campus in Wilmington, Delaware. That's where we are. This is 2025, so 5 years to buy the school, 6 years to renovate the school. Right now, all renovations are done except we got to tile the floor and rekey the classrooms, cosmetic surgery. Once we tile the floor and rekey the classrooms, which will be done by the end of this summer, we're going to apply for our certificate of occupancy. And once we get our certificate of occupancy, we're going to have a grand opening celebration, and all y'all better be there. But if you hated on me, keep your ass in Cleveland. Don't apologize. oh, Dr. Umar, I was just listening to what the YouTubian struggle streamers was saying on the internet. Nah, family. You don't hate on somebody doing something your ass ain't doing.